with in Ukraine. I've invited along briefly tonight to just give us a brief update on the situation over there. I actually spoke to Boris yesterday whilst he was driving, but Natalia, do you want to go first and just give us a brief update on how things are over at present?
Yeah, up to you, Darren. Thank you for having us tonight. Guys, well, to begin with, I would like to say that we do appreciate this huge, enormous attention and support that you are all providing us, that the whole Rotarian society community, all supporting us, sending us, checking on us like the whole time. Darren, thank you so much for checking on me, asking how things are going. So just to give you a short update, I believe Boris should be in Lviv also, right? So we are lucky to be in Lviv, where it has actually come so far. We have no bombing. There is nothing like really terrible happening. The most terrible thing that is happening these days over here is that we have so many refugees. So these are people coming from the places in Ukraine where the cities are being bombed. So you should know probably from your internet sources and from the television that like lots of cities in the eastern part of Ukraine are bombed. And today I was talking to the mayor of Lviv, who gave me some information. He was actually talking to a mayor of Mariupol, another city on the seaside of Azov Sea. He said that Mariupol is totally destroyed. There is no single building, like no single house there. So unfortunately, that's a terrible thing. So you should imagine that lots of people are suffering. We have so many refugees over here. We have about as I was told today, 300,000 refugees over here in Lviv now these days. So that's it. Actually, the bombing is harsh. Mariupol is destroyed. Mykolaiv is under severe bombing and attacks. Kyiv is under severe attacks and bombing. So Kharkiv is another city where lots of our friends, great Rotarians, have suffered. They are left homeless. So they are coming over here to Lviv, which is considered to be kind of, so far a kind of a calm place where there is no bombing, but we are actually getting ready to anything that might happen, because it is the wartime. So yeah, like that.
Boris, you've joined us as well. Is there anything you'd like to add to what Natalia has just said there at all?
Hi, Natalia. I haven't seen you for ages. Hi. Hello, everybody. And very nice to see you all again. Thanks, Darren, for inviting me. What can I really add? I think the what's happening here is pretty vivid and visible to everybody around the world. Lviv has a role in all this, which is very much like a corridor. I think this, Darren, I may have said this to you yesterday, a corridor for people who are fleeing the areas where all the violence and the fighting is taking place. Very many are staying in Lviv at the moment. The statistics change every day. Yesterday it was 200,000, today it's 300,000. A lot of those are leaving. I think something like 2 million people have already crossed the border into our neighboring countries, who are supporting us amazingly and immensely, particularly in Poland and the countries that are closer to the Ukrainian border, but also further afield. And I know that there's a lot of applications for refugees to come across to the UK, although that's actually some of the applications are they're taking a long time, and so far there's not that many that have actually made it to the UK. But places like Germany as well, Berlin, Munich, we've been able to relocate people from over the Polish border to apartments that are set up by our friends in places like Munich, where they're receiving a lot of government support and support from private enterprise and Rotary. So that's really great. So the one direction of the corridor is refugees and all of the humanitarian needs that go with that. we're having a huge a challenge to house the people that are coming to Lviv, to find places for them to stay, to find bedding and just basics for them to have somewhere to sleep and be warm and be safe, and also to help those that, particularly mothers and children who are trying to get across the border to more concrete safety. The other direction of the corridor is the supplies that that the world is providing, humanitarian aid, which comes in from the main border points in Ukraine, and many of those are very close to Lviv. Lviv being only about 50 miles away from the Polish border. But not only, there are crossings in Hungary and then further south in the directions of Romania, Moldova, which we're actively working on with our Rotarian friends, particularly in those countries. The critical issue with receiving supplies is logistics. As you probably guess or know, vehicles that are registered outside of Ukraine, by and large, can't enter the territory of a country which is at war for insurance reasons. And so therefore, the whole process of getting supplies into Ukraine is slowed down because they have to be unloaded not in Ukraine. So let's say in a Polish depot, and then reloaded onto Ukrainian registered vehicles that can then enter Ukraine, where they can then be received and then distributed onwards to where they're really needed. And there's an enormous effort with a lot of support, particularly from our Polish friends, to run that process. And what we're trying to do is to, from our Rotary perspective, is to respond to the requirements of our community around the country. As Natalia said, particularly in places like Kharkiv, which are suffering very heavily from attacks, but not only, they're some of the most vivid ones. Yeah, we're working very hard to connect our friends overseas with the routes into Ukraine, trying to resolve the logistics problems, trying to make sure that where people are screaming out for, I don't know, medical supplies or basic toiletries for children or whatever it is, and wherever they are in through our Rotary friends in other parts of the country, we're doing our best, first of all, to get those supplies into the country and then get them transferred to the places where they're needed. So in general, it's that is the general picture. Specifically, there's a lot of important points that need to be taken into account where people in other parts of the world are trying to help. We have bank accounts that are set up in Rotary, in our districts, Rotary in Ukraine. We have bank accounts that have been set up with our Polish friends in Poland, in various currencies, main currencies, in sterling, dollars, euros, Swiss francs, and so we can receive and we can use financial assistance. From the point of view of general humanitarian support, it's very difficult, and we understand, and we're seeing all over Europe, and I'm particularly spending a lot of time talking to my personal friends in the English communities and the Ukrainian communities in the UK on a daily basis about what they're trying to do and what they're actually doing, and helping them to focus on the things that really are going to help us, which are kind of understanding, using I guess common sense to understand what it is that is needed here, and to where people are collecting lots and lots of items and whether it's general humanitarian items or specific medical items that are required for field hospitals and for helping wounded people, which is obviously very different from medical requirements of general population. And just to focus on understanding and working in a smart way to send over the stuff that is really needed, but also to when they're packaging things, to be clear, to be very, very particular about identifying what's being transferred, what's being shipped over, so that at this end, when we receive it, it's much easier to deal with. Because, as I say, the logistics issue here is very difficult, and if time can be saved by being able to identify what's being provided, that's a great use to it.
If you allow a minute, Boris, I'll just ask around the meeting, just see if there's any questions anyone's got at all, because I know time is a bit tight tonight. So has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask of the guys? I
just missed where they are actually in Ukraine.
With LVIB.
LVIB.
Yeah.
Has anyone got any questions?
It's the largest city in Western Ukraine, and it's about 50 miles away from the Polish border.
Any questions or anything anyone would like to ask? Go on, question.
I noticed on the television, the news, there seems to be queues of cars being abandoned at the border.
Yeah. The reason for that is that, and some of these queues are horrendously long, 30, 40 kilometers. They're being abandoned because people want to get to the border, and they're waiting in long queues of vehicles. And so they're abandoning their vehicles, getting out their cars and walking to the border. This is creating a huge problem because, you can imagine women with small children walking 30, 40 kilometers. It's frightening. One of my club members has spent the last 10 days, 11 days on the border. She took some children over to, her mother lives in Poland. She took some children over and then came back to the border, and she's been dealing with these problems with people trying to cross the border ever since then. It's very difficult. I think it's a little bit easier now, but the queues grow and then subside and then grow and subside. But yeah, I mean, cars are being left for that reason.
Yeah, so these are the refugees who escaped the cities which are being under attack at the moment. So if it's like statistically, if we hear that some kind of a city is being under attack, so we have many more refugees on the border. And like if it's a kind of a ceasefire or there is a pause, so then there are fewer people on the border. So these are mainly, as Boris has just said, these are the kids and the women and the kids. They are trying to escape and they are looking for some safe places to stay at the moment. Guys, using this opportunity, if you allow me a minute, I would like to once again say thank you for supporting all of us and for this humanitarian aid that you are providing. Actually, lots of people in the Rotarian Society, they are providing us with lots of donations. We have collected like certain amounts of funds which we spend on the medication, the medical equipment, which is actually needed at the moment. We send all of that stuff to the military, to the war, actually, and also lots of stuff is required over here in Lviv as far as the medication goes to help the refugees, because, there are lots of people with various medical problems, like so sometimes we need insulin even for those people who are coming over here. So that's a great number of people, but actually the main thing that that we actually need is for you in your own communities. Whenever you have some petitions, you could initiate them, or you could sign for blocking the flying zone over Ukraine. That would save like thousands of lives. So if you are in any capacity of initiating or signing for petitions, asking the NATO and the European Union to block the flying zone over Ukraine. So please kindly do so, because that's an important thing that could really save thousands of lives of peaceful citizens.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Boris. I don't think there's anything else anyone else would like to ask you. So I'd just like to say thank you guys for sparing your time this evening. On behalf of the rest of the club here, thank you ever so much. Stay safe. I'll be in touch in the next day or two.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you so much.
And any questions, do reach out. Any thoughts, any questions, any ideas, just throw them over, and we'll do everything we can to help you, help us.
Yeah. Thank you so
guys.
much.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.